My paper, titled Almost Human: Analysis of Science Fiction Works Related to Robotics, examines some literary, theatrical, and cinematic works, including related readapted versions. These works are arranged in a chronologically evolutionary manner and subjected to a psychological analysis and a comparison regarding events that actually happened and inventions that really exist, through a detailed description of stages of production and science fiction and proto-science fiction plots. In this regard, the first reference work, titled Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus, created by Mary Shelley in 1888, is a typical concept of scientism, an intellectual movement based on the belief that all human problems and needs can be met through physical and experimental sciences. However, proving himself incompetent, Dr. Victor Frankenstein abandons his creature to his own fate without giving him a modicum of common sense. Nevertheless, the author succeeded in highlighting current issues such as discrimination against diversity, which being the cause of the loneliness from which the monster suffers, symbolizes contemporary human bewilderment in the face of a godless destiny. Instead, in the 1931 film version, the scientist illogically uses the brain of a criminal inserted into an initially docile creature. In 1974, although a parody sequel, the film Young Frankenstein presents a young Frankenstein that is loving toward his creature, to whom he donates part of his intellect to make him civilized. Also, in the 1984 adaptation entitled Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, this version of Victor carries out such an experiment to understand the meaning of life and its formation within a bomb. Moreover, in the end, love prompts the aforementioned character to offer his reanimated wife such consciousness as to recall the memories they shared together, giving her more attention, unlike the monster. In 1920, thanks to the Czech play RUR or Rossum's Universal Robots, the term robot was born, which, unlike mechanical automatons, initially referred to the drudgery or slavery that the artificial workers in the story must take on. Assembled to look almost human, such robots take on the typical behaviors of their creators independently, eventually rebelling to the point of extinguishing the human race and then developing feelings for each other. In 1968, due to the dystopian work The Android's Dream of Electric Ship, created by Philip Dick, replicants come alive. Genetically organic androids, so identical to humans, has to cause a subtle and difficult relationship between the two sides. This contrast is accentuated by Mesmerism, which is a new religion based on technology and the sense of unity and empathy that humanity needs, especially in a post-apocalyptic world, although such a cult turns out to be a hypocritical fraud. In 1982, the readapted version titled Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott, was released, in which, as they have a 4-year lifespan, the aforementioned replicants try to change that parameter, even to the point of killing. Such an aggressive nature is not part of Rachel, as she is an experimental prototype with implanted memories that allow her to control her emotions, which is a typical effect of behavioral epigenetics, the field of study that examines the role of the aforementioned branch of genetics in creating animal and human behavior. However, despite killing his creator, Ray saves Deckard's life before surrendering to death, showing the piety and the empathy he never received. In 2017, Shinichiro Watanabe directed a sequel that is also a short anime film, Blade Runner Breakout 2022, in which, due to their indefinite lifespan, the new replicants are hunted down and killed by some human supremacist movements who are convinced that their increasingly anthropologically identical enemies are dangerous. Following the aforementioned blackout, another short was released, 2036 Nexus Dawn, in which the magnate Neander Wallace convinces the Supreme Court to produce more advanced and reliable replicants, thanks in part to his contribution in the field of genetically modified food, from which he gained the profits that are the real purpose of that industry nowadays, neglecting food safety and environmental impact. In the second short film, 2048 Nowhere to Run, Super Martin, a replicant who returned to Earth just before the blackout, lives undercover, running from the Los Angeles Police Department, much like the protagonist of his favorite book, a prize forced to flee the Mexican anti-Catholic persecution. Finally, also in 2017, the sequel Blade Runner 2049 was released, in which K, a Nexus 9 and also Blade Runner, deludes himself that he was created through the union of Deckard and Rachel, so that he could have felt free and special. His holographic partner, and as well as an artificial intelligence, Joy, is also convinced of this, to the point that she gives him a real name, Joe. Despite their intangibility, her appearance after dying causes him to abandon his false beliefs and accept himself for who he really wants to be. While believing that the meeting and reproduction between Deckard and Rachel were part of an experiment, Neander Wallace fails to understand their love, which knows no existential limits, proving true such thesis that every living being, more or less synthetic, has the right to live a dignified existence.